We start here at 5 o'clock with major changes in Portland's effort to ease its homeless crisis. The city's controversial daytime camping ban ordinance officially went into effect today. Thank you for joining us on this Friday. I'm Laurel Porter.
And I'm David Molko. People living on the streets are now required to pack up tents and belongings during the day and can only set them up again after 8. Thomas Schultz joins us now in Southwest Portland. Thomas, we should clarify the mayor's office says no enforcement yet. Well, what's the reaction been like on day one?
That's right, David. No enforcement yet, but some people that are homeless that we spoke with today say they're just learning about the ordinance. Others say that they expected police officers to come to their tent this morning to remove them from the property, regardless of whether they had just heard about it or not. Everybody that we spoke with who lives on the streets says this will make their life more challenging.
Well, right now it's breaking me down.
Claude Little has lived on the streets of Portland for 10 years. 9 have been spent in this vicinity. Soon, he could be forced to move daily.
It's going to just keep tearing me up.
Little says he broke his leg months ago and is going to physical therapy. Now he packs a bag of belongings whenever he leaves, in case his tent is removed.
My life is just falling apart slowly, but I'm trying to put it back together. It's really hard.
The ordinance is one of the biggest moves Portland has taken to address homelessness. It bans homeless camping on public property from 8 in the morning until 8 at night. People living on the street can be prohibited from camping if they decline shelter or housing. They can be warned to move their tents and belongings twice before facing a fine up to $100 or 30 days in jail.
We don't have money. That's why we're out here in tents already. So us paying a fine is unrealistic.
City commissioners say the intention of the ordinance is to move people into shelter or public housing.
If people say no to services that we've actually heard they want, then we'll have to deal with that as well.
Representatives from Mayor Ted Wheeler's office say enforcement of the ordinance would not begin immediately. Instead, the city is working with nonprofits, the Street Services Coordination Center, and the Joint Office of Homeless Services to educate people about the change.
It's complicated, but our community safety team, our first responders, need clarification and direction.
Ryan says Friday is just the beginning of dialogue taking place with people living on the streets. He says commissioners need to discuss the education phase of the ordinance in more depth at the next city council meeting. Prominent business and property owner Jordan Schnitzer says the ordinance is a step in the right direction.
And many of them don't want to come down because they're afraid of being attacked by the homeless or impacted by them. We need people back downtown. We need the workers back downtown. We need the shops to open up.
Services like the Blanchet House are collecting suitcases with wheels for people living on the streets to quickly move belongings.
No, they're survivors, right? That's sort of the thing about them that impresses us is just their instinct for survival.
Still, those like Little are concerned. He says he's already been ticketed in street sweeps and had his belongings thrown in the garbage. He had to get a new ID, social security card, and birth certificate.
I'm trying, and every time I get a step ahead, they kick me 2 steps back, but it's not their fault. You know, they're just following procedure. You know what I'm saying? They're following the mayor.
Camping within 250 feet of schools, child care centers, and shelters run by the city is prohibited, as is camping in city parks from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Now, there was also a legal challenge filed against the daytime camping ban, and in response to that challenge, Portland Commissioner Dan Ryan says, quote, "I think there's legal risks and challenges going on all over the city by not providing services, by not making our public right-of-ways safe." David, Laurel.
Thanks, Thomas. Appreciate that update.
Community needs and community visions will define and drive the bulk of the work that we're doing.
Well, that is a familiar face. The U.S. Transportation Secretary laying out his approach on getting big projects done with federal dollars during a visit to the Pacific Northwest, one that included stops on both sides of the Columbia. Tim Gordon's in the newsroom. Tim, you took a bus tour with the Secretary.
David, I did, along with a busload of people riding on Portland's 82nd Avenue. Yeah, we weren't alone in there. That's where there is a push for major improvements for safety and livability. Before that, Buttigieg was north of the river to see how a big federal grant will help transportation problems there.
A busy day for U.S. Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg. First to Washougal to highlight an intersection the federal government is putting $40 million toward fixing. It's where 40 trains a day cause gridlock for drivers coming in and out of town.
That's why we're so glad to be here to formally celebrate the $40 million that are going to help reconstruct that 32nd Street underpass and make for a better life and a better routine all across this area.
Also, I have to tell you.
Then it was across the river to Portland Community College's Southeast Campus, flanked by some of Oregon's congressional delegation and Governor Tina Kotek. Representative Earl Blumenauer arranged the visit to talk about 82nd Avenue, an old state thruway now under city control and in need of a lot of help. Blumenauer says it's one of Oregon's orphaned highways.
7 miles of opportunity and challenge, and we're poised now to finally take advantage of that.
Poised for improvements because of more than $100 million committed by the state and the city of Portland. Buttigieg says it's something the federal government can get behind.
Ultimately, so much of what we're doing with the federal dollars that are going out is actually going to be decided at the state and local level. We're consciously trying to empower state and local government to get big things done.
Leaving PCC, a bus tour on an all-electric TriMet bus, a chance to show and tell the top transportation official in the country all about it. The dangers of the roadway, the improvements to come, and how federal dollars are needed as well to create safety, livability, and equity. Buttigieg liked what he heard.
And seeing everything from this great green bus that we're buying more and more of for transit agencies around the country to the corridor that is going to benefit from good policy choices and good investment in the future. This is why transportation matters.
And of course, transportation matters crossing the Columbia River, so I had to ask Buttigieg about the federal commitment for a new interstate bridge. He said he couldn't talk specifics, but that both states showing $1 billion commitment makes the case for federal funding stronger in the grant application process. So more on that coming. Laurel?
Yes, a lot of people interested in what's happening with the I-5 bridge. And talking, Tim, about infrastructure and traffic. We have a traffic alert for you on I-5. Starting tonight, ODOT crews are doing maintenance on the Markham Bridge. The southbound lanes of I-5 will be closed from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. tonight, tomorrow, and Sunday. Drivers will need to use I-405 to get around that closure.
Meanwhile, a judge has denied bail for the man accused of causing a crash on I-5 that killed 7 people. Authorities say 52-year-old Lincoln Smith was driving a semi back on May 18th near Albany when it veered off the road and hit a passenger van carrying 11 people. The 7 people who died were all farm workers. At a bail hearing on Thursday, 2 family members and the victim's employer asked that Smith be kept behind bars. His next court hearing is scheduled for the end of July. He faces 7 counts of manslaughter, plus reckless driving and DUII.
In Cowlitz County, a fire destroyed a home and sent a firefighter to the hospital. This happened late last night in Kalama. The fire was at an old Victorian house built in 1900. Crews were searching inside when the roof collapsed. Luckily, the homeowner was not there at the time. The injured firefighter was treated and later released from the hospital. The cause is under investigation.
To an update this evening on that massive fire that ripped through a Portland apartment complex. 2 months later, neighbors in the building next door who were also displaced are finally getting their belongings back. Kyle Boshi joins us along Southwest 14th Avenue where the street is still blocked off. Kyle.
Yeah, David, the damage is still quite visible. You can see this fence is intended to keep people back. There's concerns it's unstable. At some point, the May apartments will be demolished. According to the city, the building owner hired a contractor, but no permits have been filed yet. On May 16th, a huge fire ripped through the Southwest Portland apartment building. Everyone survived. A guy who lived here was arrested and charged with starting the fire. Not only were residents of the May apartments forced out after the blaze, but so were people living in the nearby Maxwell Hall building. Today, those residents who've been living next door were able to get their belongings. Contractors boxed things up for them. Many of the residents have since moved to other apartments around town. They say the past 2 months have been difficult. First surviving a fire, then trying to get life back on track.
I didn't have insurance, renter's insurance, and I should have, and I do now. Anybody who doesn't, I recommend you get it immediately because you never know when something like this will happen.
One big question that remains, when will this building be torn down? The city admits there's no firm timeline yet. It's up to the building owner and contractor. In the meantime, this section of Southwest 14th Avenue will remain closed.